Welcome back, everybody, to Real Talk Realty Podcast, where we put the real in real estate. You are with your host, JD.
And Gabby.
And Louis Namick.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I don't know if you guys got a chance to catch last week's episode, but we had on a special guest, our premier lender, Darren, and we talked a lot about first-time home buyer programs as well as just being buyer-focused last week. So we want to switch gears a little bit this week and talk more about the sellers, what's going on in the market for sellers, a little bit of tips and tricks on how to get your property ready to make sure that you're not leaving any money on the table, which is every seller's goal, right? To get the most amount of money for their home possible. Gabby, what are some common questions that you kind of encounter whenever you're dealing with sellers and they're talking about things that they need to do to get ready for the market?
Yeah, so one of the popular questions that we get asked a lot is how can sellers best prepare their home for the market?
And that's a really good question. And honestly, there's a whole kind of stigma out there that I experience with a lot of sellers where they're under the impression that they have to go above and beyond and do all these things and upgrade their homes to get it ready for the market. And a lot of the time, the things that they want to do are not going to get them more money, and it may actually end up costing them more money, when in reality, there are some simple tips and tricks and efficient and cost-efficient ways to get your property to have the biggest curb appeal possible to ensure that you're getting the most amount of money.
With that said, I always advise my clients, the best approach to getting your house ready is declutter and depersonalize your home. Any painting that needs to be touched up, hire a cleaning service for a deep clean. Those are the first steps that you have to do in order to get your house ready. They're not very much money to get that done.
No, it's more just a little elbow grease and kind of just, doing some things. And for example, I went into a property recently and it was a beautiful home. The quality of the home was really nice. The paint was all great. They had all the upgrades. But, man, on the kitchen counters, they must have had every single thing you could possibly imagine. They got the toaster. They got the air fryer. They got the coffee maker. They got
Vitamix.
Yeah, Vitamix. They got their, spatulas and everything all over the place. It's like, hey, declutter that, like Louis said. Make it clean and clear because what you want, and by depersonalize, which Louis highlighted on there, was you want them to walk into this property and it be almost an open slate so that they can visualize and really think about how they want to personally set up their property. And it's really hard to do that if they don't have anything to work with, right? Like they're looking at a painted canvas versus one that's blank that they can, put their own spin on. So that's definitely an important thing.
Right, because by depersonalizing, the client will walk in and imagine themselves in that house and liking the house. Where if you have everything, your photos, your family, it's not going to work because they're saying, hey, this is somebody else's house. I can't imagine myself.
Yeah, and that's it. And then they get that feeling where it's like, oh, this has already been lived in. It's already, so to make it look, it may not be the way that you personally decorate. I know I go to some people's homes and their house looks like nobody lives in there anyway. That's just how some people live. And, I applaud that. They're ready to sell immediately. But a lot of you guys, and even me personally, I have some paintings and some photos on the walls and things like that. If you're getting ready to sell, go ahead and take care of that.
Yeah, and decluttering is very important because if you have a bunch of clutter in your home in every room, the clients can't see the total room that or square footage that the home actually has. Yep. It'll feel cramped, and that's not a good thing. If you're decluttering and you put away everything you're not using, your house looks a little bigger.
Right. Absolutely. We have this is a kind of a surprise to us, but in our studio we have a ginormous German Shepherd, very sweet dog, but when we opened up the door to walk in here, he was going nutso. I had to basically drag in Gabby. She was going to stay outside. He's a really good dog. He's actually our neighboring business's house mascot. But he's in here. So if you see me kind of looking down to the left, it's because he's sniffing my elbow.
Another thing too, because it makes a huge difference, specifically, especially for kitchen counters. If you have all this stuff on your counter, it can also make it look a lot smaller. And even if, like with you said that there was a house that had like stuff in every room, right? it makes the space look smaller. So when you have buyers coming to see your house, you want it to feel as spacious as possible. And by decluttering, you can achieve that.
Right. I tell my clients, this is what you should think. Picture yourself coming into your house. You imagine yourself not owning it. You want to come see this house. How would you want to look at it? How would you want this house to look like when you come to visit, right? The best thing I tell my clients, try to make your house look as close to a model as you possibly can. And that always works.
And that, Louis, is like perfect, because if you think about these new construction homes and the models, they literally make these models to where like you have no option but to fall in love with it.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's exactly right.
They do.
And
That's
so that is a
exactly right.
perfect example of something to look at.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and hey, it may end up costing you a little bit. Maybe your house needs a little bit more tender loving care, but in the end, your return on your investment is going to be higher than if you don't do anything.
Yep.
You know?
So that's a great point. And so here's some cost efficient things that I always recommend to my clients. If let's say that they have a slightly outdated home and they don't want to go and do the full blown kitchen upgrade, and they don't want to, hire a massive landscaping company to come out and prep their yard and these types of things. There are so many different ways that you can really increase that initial impression when somebody walks in your home. And don't forget, people walk in, it's all about the first impression. Within the first 15 seconds, they're going to walk in and they're going to have a sense of whether this is going to be a good fit or whether it's not going to be a good fit. They don't need to tour the entire thing to get that first impression. So that's why it's so important, even focusing on walking up to the door, right? Like when somebody pulls up to your house, a lot of these prospective buyers, prior to even booking a showing, they're going to drive by the house and actually take a look at it. And then they're going to determine, is this the right neighborhood? But when they pull up into the front of the yard and they're looking at it, there's so many things that you can do. For example, mulching your flower beds. Come spring, right? You want to mulch your flower beds. Don't want to have that faded gray mulch from last year kind of scattered and not, lined up correctly. Having the sidewalks clear, free of debris, free of leaves. Your weeds, if you have weeds in the front, get those pulled. These are all small things, and what it's going to convey to the potential buyers that you really care about your home, and that's going to lead them to also believe that you care about the quality of your home, that maybe you've kept up with the upkeep with the property, you've taken care of any potential issues. And now if somebody's walking up to the front of your home and they see debris and leaf matter all over the place and the grass is not cut,
Scratched front door,
dented door, things like that. That right there is going to set the tone for the rest of their showing.
absolutely. Missing doorbell with the wire sticking out. First impressions are always the best impressions. You got to get that first impression down.
You have to.
I went as far as telling one of my clients, listen, it will behoove you to get a professional window cleaner in your house. It's going to show that you care about your house. The windows are going to let a lot of light in. They're going to be super clean. And that is, again, trying to get the house to as close as a model as you can.
And also, when they're walking in the house, they're going to be thinking about what they are going to need to change, whether they're going to need to upgrade something. And if you're taking the time to make sure those windows are absolutely clean, windows are expensive.
Yeah.
If you go to replace windows on a property, it is a very expensive thing to do. But a lot of it is just honestly cleaning it. I mean, I've walked into properties where the windows aren't any more than 7 years old, but because they haven't been cleaned, they look like they're 15 years old.
That's true. It's very important to get your house deep clean, including the windows.
Yep. And we actually, a part of working with us as your listing agents, we actually have somebody that we contact to come out and get your property ready, just to let you guys know what we're doing. We're going the extra mile.
Yeah, we also have a partnership with Window Genie, right? You mentioned my name, Louis the Realtor, and they'll give you 10% off your window cleaning.
Dang.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat that. You heard it here first. Louis, name it. Get that window cleaning special there.
So there's a lot of sellers that are probably a little leery about putting their house up for sale at this very moment. Why do you think that that is?
Well, I think that because statistically, and this is based off real data, the months of January and February tend to net sellers the least amount of money. And that's usually because, why? Because there's a whole bunch of people, the common thing you hear is, I'm waiting till the spring, I'm waiting till the spring. And not only are sellers saying that, but buyers are saying that, right? Nobody wants to, well, not nobody, people that have to move are out there making deals and getting involved and looking at homes. But there's a whole bunch of people that it's not a necessity, but it's rather a want.
And they don't want to brave the cold and the snow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have a seller right now who we have a signed listing agreement. He's very excited to sell. And he said, JD, and he had another realtor that was really pushing him to sell over this past winter that he is no longer working with. But he said, JD, this last realtor asked me to sell like 3 different times over the winter. I'm not moving in the cold. That's what he said. That was his reason. I'm not moving in the cold. He said, who wants to be moving furniture and all these belongings out when it's 20 degrees with a 10-degree wind chill? You know, and I totally understand that. So he said, JD, when spring comes, when the birds start chirping, call me up. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to move in the winter.
No.
It's too cold.
Yeah. To answer your question, though, that is the reason why people are hesitating, right? I mean, I think it's because you statistically will net a little less in December and in January and February. And once, the weather warms up a little bit more and more people come out, I think you'll notice a pretty dramatic increase.
Yeah, a couple more weeks, and we're going to start dramatically seeing an increase in people listing their homes and buyers coming out to see those homes. Usually March, April, May, that is the busiest season for home buying and home selling.
I feel like I did like last year. I felt like maybe 60% of my transactions were probably from the months of about, I would say like March to August.
Yep.
Those were that was like the majority, maybe 70%. And then the other 30 were scattered over like the fall and winter,
Right.
But we're not saying, don't list your home. We're just saying it's really going to depend on your unique situation. Again, if you have to, because maybe a job's taking you somewhere, or maybe your family has grown and you need to upgrade, there are still advantages to conducting business in these months, specifically if you're a buyer, obviously. We talked a little bit about that last week. So, but for the sellers, another thing I wanted to kind of bring up, and you guys tell me your 2 cents. What are you thinking if you have a property, let's say that somebody in a family has passed away, right? And you have an executor of the will who has just inherited this property. What in the hell are you laughing about?
This one earlier.
Well,
She's got one foot in the door.
She is still with us.
I know that she was going to crack up on that one.
Anything that's serious, Gabby just laughs.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
No, we can't go ahead now. No, we can't go ahead. You are not going to stop laughing.
All right, let's try.
All right.
All right. So let's say that you have a seller.
I hate you guys.
Go
So
ahead.
let's say that you have a seller, right, who has called out to you because they have it's she's tears.
She's crying.
crying.
She's crying.
crying.
Hey, listen. You got to get yourself together here.
Yeah.
I have to leave.
All right, just go ahead and keep going.
So
'cause
Gabby,
I'm gonna crop out. I'm gonna crop myself
we're gonna
out.
crop herself. We're gonna crop Gabby out of this. All right. So let's say that you have a seller
Well,
who
we are on the crop team.
we are gonna crop out Gabby from the crop team permanently, indefinitely, until further notice.
Here.
I'm gonna leave all this in here.
Oh my gosh. Let's say that somebody has passed away, right?
Yep.
And the somebody in this family has, is taking over the process of getting the property sold, which
Right, yeah.
I actually am currently, potentially almost dealing with this.
Right.
And, let's say the house is distressed. The person who inherited the property does not want to have to go. Normally, they're already kind of grieving or going through whatever they're going through. They don't want to have to then take all the time. They may not have the resources to improve this property and get it ready for the market in order to get the most money possible.
I would say that 90% of those homes will not get improvements done.
Yeah.
People just don't have the time. They don't want to get into it. They are mourning, and the
Yep.
last thing they want to do is get into a major project.
Right. And that is, I would say that you're probably right about 90%. I mean, most of them, it just happens. They throw it on the market, and there's a lot of potential money that's left on the table. So what we're trying to do is take the weight off of the client, the worry off of the client, and even the monetary, conflict that it might have between, let's say, getting members of the family to put money into this property. Let's erase all of that, okay? There are companies out there that will actually come to your property, this distressed property, and they will invest in it themselves. They will bring it up to above average. They will, completely renovate your kitchen. They'll even potentially put on a new roof. I've had that happen. They will maybe address a septic issue. Whatever this property needs in order to get it sell worthy and for top dollar, they're willing to do. And there is no major catch, if you will. The catch is they're just going to be compensated a small percentage when the property actually sells.
At closing.
At closing.
Right. Hey, it could just be the property needs painting and new floors.
Yep.
New carpeting.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as that.
Yeah, it could be a person who maybe had a ton of pet dogs or something, and they scratched the floors up, and they had children, so the walls are dented. This company will come in, they will repaint the entire house, they will put new LVP floors down, and next thing you know, the value of your home has gone up 35, 40K just by those simple adjustments. And it's a win-win, right? Because the seller doesn't have to do anything. They don't have to go to the property. The contractors will go there. We'll allow them in there. We, at this point, have already done the research, and we've determined whether this is a good avenue, because sometimes it may not be a good fit for everybody. So we're doing a CMA, we're doing a comparable market analysis, and we're looking at the potential profit that you can make if this home was a 10 out of 10.
Right.
And so we'll weigh the options. And sometimes it's better to just list it as is and get it done. Maybe there's a time concern on when all parties need to be, compensated or satisfied or whatever. But then sometimes it's just one person controlling an estate, and they say, you know what, we really want to make the most of that out of this. So what would you suggest? And this is one of the things that we suggest.
Yeah, it works. It works because I've done a property like that. I had a company come in, give an assessment value of what it's going to cost to do it. My clients went with it, and they received, I think, $40,000 extra.
More than what they would have if it was just as is and thrown on the market.
Absolutely. Yep.
And if you have the time, and if you have agents like us who have these connections and built these relationships, it's a fantastic way to go about selling a distressed property. Another thing that we've been talking a lot about lately, and this is more kind of for, let's say, somebody who does not want to have to do anything, but they still want to be guaranteed the most amount of money possible. Zoodealio.
Oh, yes.
Zoodealio is a program that we have access to as real estate agents. It is not available to the public. The only people it's available to is real estate agents, as well as investors who are paying for a subscription to have access to this database. And essentially what it is we're taking a distressed property, we're taking some photos ourselves, and we're giving a brief description, and we're throwing the address into this program. It is now kicked off to a national database of investors, and it's a pretty conservative system. Essentially, within like an hour, you will have an offer on the property. If speed is if time is of the essence, it is a great option to have. And one of the things that they'll do, they have a couple different scenarios that they'll kick over to you.
Right.
One of them is called the cash plus offer. Then there is just a cash offer. And then there's the fix it and list it, which is actually very similar to what we were just talking about. But let's just go over two of those things. The cash plus offer is essentially, they are telling you how much within, like I just did this for one of my properties. They will give you an offer amount that they're willing to take it. And of course, they're going to do their own inspections, and they're going to set a closing date, and they can close in about 3 weeks is the fastest, which I was told they could do. And after they do that, you accept the offer, right? Let's say that they offer you $300,000 for this distressed property, and you agree to it. So the first payout, they'll do two different payouts, an initial payout, and they'll give you that number up front, and then you list it again. So it goes to the title is now conveyed to the new buyer, this investor. Then you relist it with that investor. And if it goes for more than what you were initially offered, the difference will go back to your seller. So it's a way for you to kind of get to test the market and also make sure you're not leaving any money on the table.
That's good. That's really good. That's a neat program.
Yeah, it's a great program. And then also there is just the regular cash offer. Now I asked the guy, I said, why does anybody take this? The cash offers are always super low.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And he just said, honestly, it's just there so you have a comparison between the options.
Right.
But you will always net more doing the cash plus offer. And then the fixed and listed is the same thing. A buyer will offer, an investor will come in, offer you a certain amount, and then they'll fix up the property, and then you can sell it for more money later.
Yeah, that's a good way of selling your house quickly if you need to be out fast.
Yep.
Right.
If you got to get out fast. Now, there's some stipulations. You obviously, like in one of the scenarios, it didn't work for one of my clients was because the initial payout wasn't enough to satisfy their lien on the home, and they were already contingent on a property. They were already under contract on a property in West Virginia that needed to be, their previous home needed to be the lien satisfied. So that didn't work for them, but it does work. Let's say you own your home outright and you just want to get it off the market quickly. That's a great avenue to explore.
Right.
Or even for the estate sales, too. That could be a good option.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially the estate sales.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially the estate sales.
Because nobody ever wants to do, there's so many
yeah.
personalities usually involved with an estate sale, and they just want to just get it done and split the money and be done with it,
That's correct. Yep.
And the last thing, to go back to what you were saying about sellers, is pricing, right? That is like the number one thing you could do to drive traffic. We talked about it a little bit earlier in our earliest episodes. We talked a lot about pricing, but I think it's becoming more vital to our situation with this current market and what's going on in the economy and everything, is pricing your home to sell. It used to be that you could just have a nice listing, throw it up for any amount, and within 5 to 10, any reasonable amount, and within 5 to 10 days, you'd have an offer or multiple offers. Now it's not like that.
Or day one.
Yeah, or day one, or even before it goes on the market.
Yeah.
That was happening a lot. But you will be absolutely punished by the market if you do not price your home aggressively.
When I go to a listing appointment and I sit down with my clients, the very, very first thing I say, the most important thing to do when you list your home is price it right, price it right, price it right. You can't be too low. You can't be too high.
Yep.
You got to. There's a little sweet spot there where you can draw in multiple offers and get people to come see your house.
Right.
If you overprice it, no one's going to.
The danger of overpricing your home is far greater than the danger of underpricing it.
Correct.
I will say that.
I totally agree on that.
There's a lot of people that say, well, let's try it out at this certain price. All right. And let's try it at this price and then we'll drop it. It's like, no, the importance of hitting it the first time and really setting the expectation that you're being aggressive, that you are motivated as a seller means all the world to the buyers out there. Because just as we're doing a comparable market analysis of your home to determine what it should be priced at, a good buyer's agent is also going to make sure that you're in accordance to what's going on in that neighborhood.
Absolutely. The longer it stays on the market, people are going to eventually come in and give you a low ball offer for your house.
Right.
And you don't want that.
No.
You don't want that. So you're very, very correct when you say that you really don't want your house to be on the market for a long time without any action or any offers or any appointments to come to it.
And one of the things I always say is that the market will tell you what to do. It's not a guessing game, right? So we have an idea as agents in a specific zip code, in a specific price range, how many showings we should be getting on one of our listings in a first week or the second week.
That's correct.
And if those numbers aren't aligning with what we're seeing on even our other listings, then we know that there needs to be some sort of an adjustment.
Right.
And it's okay to make price adjustments. We're not saying that it's not. What we're saying is, you have to do those as applicable. You don't want to set a plan up and plan ahead to make price adjustments.
Right.
That's where you're kind of putting your back against the wall, and it's going to give negotiating power to any prospective buyers. They're going to know they can take a shot at you because, look, you've already dropped it 4 times. Yeah. What's another 20 grand chunk for us to make an offer with?
Right. I have a listing right now on the market, and to prove your point about January and February. So I've had several open houses multiple people coming in, not a single negative feedback. The price, every time, just right. The price is just right. Home shows beautifully. One customer was elderly, couldn't do the stairs, whatever, but no one has complained about the price.
Right.
So it just says that the timing's off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Just to prove your point there. So I believe in a couple of weeks, it's going to pick up.
I think so too. We thank you so much for coming and joining us with another episode. And just so you guys know, in the coming weeks, we are actually planning on having some more special guests. So we're going to have to figure out this table situation, how to squeeze one more person in here. I think we can do it.
I will be here.
Louis will be here. He does not live in Florida part-time, despite what many of you think. But we appreciate your time and spending your afternoon with us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
All right.
Bye.